My name is Samantha, and at 33 years old, I found myself standing in the middle of the living room, inside the very house I had helped save, 3 separate times. The first time was when my father, Robert, had to go through back surgery and couldn't work for months. Bills piled up, and everyone was scared about what might happen. I was the one who kept the lights on. The second time was during the economic downturn, when both my parents lost nearly half of their retirement savings. They didn't know how they would recover. I stepped in again, and the third time was just last spring, when the furnace gave out in the middle of a cold snap. Without asking, I wired the contractor the entire cost up front before my parents even had to call me. That afternoon, though, I wasn't there to fix anything. I was just there to help Dad scan some health insurance paperwork. Something simple. Something I'd done many times before. Dad never really figured out the printer-scanner combo, not even after 10 years of owning it. He always said I was the tech one in the family. Funny thing is, I've worked in project management for more than a decade, not in IT, but I let him say it. He had left a neat stack of papers on the dining table. I moved through them quickly, one by one. Medical records, a couple of Medicare forms, a utility bill or two. Nothing unusual. And then I saw it, a cream-colored folder, thick, with estate plan final copy written neatly across the front in my mother's handwriting. I shouldn't have opened it. I know that, but I had just paid their property tax. Bill the week before $2,178.41, right out of my own checking account. And later that same day, I was planning to swing by the pharmacy to pick up their blood pressure meds, like I always did. So yes, I opened it. Inside was their notarized will, dated just 2 months ago, their fully paid-off house, the retirement funds that remained, a life insurance policy. All of it, every single asset, was designated to go to my younger brother, Ethan, age 20-9. Ethan had no job. He was still living at home. He had dropped out of college twice. He had spent a few years working on his music, which mostly meant hanging out in the garage and posting clips online that rarely got more than a couple hundred views. My parents always defended him. He just hasn't found his path yet. And right there, in black ink, was one line that felt like a knife. We love both of our children equally and trust them to take care of one another. That was it. No mention of the thousands I'd covered. No recognition of the savings I'd drained without them even having to ask. Not even a thank you. Just a neat, polite way of saying you don't need anything. And we don't owe you anything. I didn't say anything at first. I just stood there, staring at the paper while the scanner hummed in the background. My hands were steady. My breath wasn't. If you've ever felt betrayed by the very people who should have been your strongest supporters, then you'll understand. Dad came back into the room, carrying his coffee. "You getting through that stack, Sam?" he asked. Casually, I held up the folder. My voice was quiet. "Is this how it is, Dad? Everything goes to Ethan." He froze, coffee halfway to his lips. Then he let out one of those long, tired sighs, the kind that tells you he already knows what you found. "It's not what you think," he said. But it was exactly what I thought. I didn't push him, not right away. He just stood there, gripping his mug like it might somehow explain things. "Finally," he muttered, "we figured you'd understand. You've always done well, Sam. You're doing fine." That was the phrase I'd heard my whole life whenever they didn't want to explain something. You're doing fine. Translation: you don't get to want more. You don't get to need anything. I left the folder on the table and stepped outside. The porch swing creaked as I sat down. I'd replaced that swing myself just 2 summers ago. The same week the deck railing gave out and I paid a contractor to fix it, because Ethan was between paychecks again. Back then, I hadn't minded. I was raised to step up, to take care of things. That's who I was. I grew up in this very house. I shared a room with Ethan until I was 13, when Dad finally finished the basement. I still remember painting the walls with him, all of us together, Mum bringing us lemonade and smiling. She called us her little team. I stayed in Dallas after college because Mum said she couldn't sleep well if I was too far away. I even turned down a job offer in New York City with better pay, better opportunities, faster promotions, because I told myself that family mattered more. The truth is, they never once told me I had to sacrifice. They just never told me it wasn't required. The little things added up. Paying their car insurance when they were short, buying groceries when their SNAP benefits were delayed, calling the credit card company when late fees hit. And then there were the big things, like wiring $11,000 from my savings to catch them up on the mortgage 4 years ago. No hesitation, no strings. I just wanted them to feel safe, secure, not worried. And now, after everything I'd poured into this family, I was nothing more than a footnote. I sat there on that porch swing, staring at the old oak tree across the yard. Ethan had once carved his initials into it with the letters E+M for some high school girlfriend whose name I don't even remember. I wondered then, did he ever pay a dime to have that tree trimmed when it nearly split down the middle? During a storm last year, did he even know it cost $800? Did they ever stop to think about what I had given up? Not just the money, but the ease, the peace, the life I could have built somewhere else if I hadn't always been showing up first. Or did they only see me as the one who didn't need to be asked, because I always showed up before they even had to? I didn't go back inside right away. The porch swing gave one last creak beneath me, then stilled. I could still hear the faint hum of the scanner through the screen door. A few minutes later, Mum stepped outside. She was wearing her favorite pale blue cardigan, the one she always wore when she had something heavy to say. The same one she'd been wearing the Christmas I gave her a gift card while Ethan handed her a burned CD. She said she loved both gifts equally. She didn't sit down right away. She stood there, twisting the hem of her sleeve. "Samantha," she said. Not too soft, not too sharp. I kept my eyes down. She sat beside me anyway. "We didn't mean for you to find out like that." I gave a small nod, but said nothing. "It's not that we don't love you." Still, I stayed silent. Because what do you call love that forgets your name when it's inconvenient? She reached for my hand. Her skin was warm, trembling slightly. "Ethan's had a rougher time," she said. "You've always been steady, strong, reliable." Those words can sound kind, until you realize they're really cages, labels that let people take from you without guilt. I pulled my hand back. "You could have told me," I said quietly. "You could have asked." She looked away, down toward the yard. Then she said, even softer, "We had to co-sign for Ethan. He needed the help." The words landed like a tap, not a punch. But I heard everything behind them. They hadn't just left me out of the will. They had already tied themselves to him with real numbers, real debt, real risk. "How much?" I asked. She stayed silent. "Mum, how much?" Finally, she whispered 35. I stood up. The wind had picked up, and the old wind chime above the porch clinked once before falling still. I looked at her, not angry, just tired. "You didn't choose him because he needed it," I said. "You chose him because you already owed it to him." Her eyes widened, but I wasn't looking for a response. I just hadn't realized until now that the price of helping them included forgetting me. I didn't text, I didn't call, I just stopped. That week, I cancelled the automatic deposit I had set up for their utility bills. I deleted the reminder on my phone that told me when it was time to reorder their medications. I paused the grocery delivery account I had linked to their address, the one that dropped bags off every Thursday afternoon like clockwork. There was no big announcement, no dramatic confrontation, just a quiet shift, a hollow space where I had Once been, I thought maybe they'd notice right away. But the first week passed, and nothing. By the second week, the first messages came in. Dad sent the first one. Water bill came in higher this month. Can you check the account? I didn't answer. A couple of days later, Mum texted, "We're out of the low-sodium crackers you always bring. Ethan forgot. I left it unread." They weren't worried. Not yet. They just assumed I was busy, moody, tired from work. Maybe they thought I needed some space. Maybe they thought, like always, I'd come back. But by the third week, the tone shifted. "Sam," Mum wrote, "the mortgage is due. Can you send what you usually do? No hello, no how are you. Just a line, a number, a need." I stared at it for a long time, then typed, "Ask Ethan. It's his house now." I hit send. 5 minutes later, my phone lit up with her call. I let it ring, then another message. "Please don't be like this. We need to talk." But there was nothing left to talk about. They had made their choice. I was finally living like it mattered. That evening, Ethan chimed in for the first time. "Sam, don't make this a big deal. Just help them like always, like always, like routine, like reflex, like I had never been more than reliable background noise." I wrote back, "You're the one they chose, Ethan, so be the choice." He didn't reply. The next morning, I woke up to a bank notification. A transfer request, $3,200. Exact amount of the overdue mortgage plus penalties. No message, no explanation, just the number. I declined it. 1 minute later, the phone rang again, and then a text. "We could lose the house if you don't help us." Followed by another. This time from Dad. "You'd let your parents go homeless." I almost laughed. They weren't homeless. They were just uncomfortable. For the first time, they were feeling the weight of what I had carried for years without asking. I turned off my phone. They didn't lose me when they wrote me out of the will. They lost me when they assumed I'd keep giving without question. Another week passed in silence after I declined that transfer request. No calls, no texts. It was the quietest they had been in years. And somehow, that quiet was louder than all the begging. For the first time in as long as I could remember, I started sleeping better, waking up without checking my phone immediately, cooking for myself and only myself. But silence never lasts. Long in my family, not when there's blame to pass. The first crack came in the form of a voicemail from my Aunt Marilyn. She never called me, always said she didn't want to get in the middle of family things. But that morning, her voice trembled through my phone. "I'm not taking sides, honey, but your mum's worried sick. Maybe just talk to them." That's when I knew they had started talking to other people. I opened Facebook, and it didn't take long to find it. A photo of their front porch. A caption underneath, "We gave everything to our children, but sometimes giving isn't enough." Dozens of likes, a handful of comments, concerned emojis, and there it was, Ethan, in the comments. Some people think family is just about money. They forget it's about showing up. I closed the app, not angry, just hollow. It wasn't enough for them to be disappointed. They had to rewrite the story too. They had to turn me from caretaker into villain, because I had stopped showing up to be used. The next day, an envelope arrived in my mailbox. No return address. Inside was a foreclosure notice. A copy not addressed to me, but I recognized the property number instantly. I sat with it for a long moment, then flipped it over and wrote on the back, "Maybe you should." V left it to someone who could manage it. I didn't send it. Instead, I logged onto the county site. Their property was officially listed as at risk, behind on payments, number savings buffer left. They had burned through whatever was left, maybe trying to keep up appearances, maybe hoping I'd cave before things got real. And Ethan. He had drained it all. The money they had trusted him with. The money that was supposed to mean security, stability, their future. Gone. There was a time I would have stepped in. I would have called the bank, negotiated a grace period, moved funds around. But not this time. I poured myself a glass of water, sat at the kitchen table, and let the house fall without me. Sometimes you don't need to set the fire. You just need to stop carrying the water. It started small, a vague post from Mom, a sunflower emoji at the end, a photo of her and Dad smiling on the porch. The caption: "We raised our kids with love. We did our best. But sometimes love isn't enough." No names, no direct accusations. But anyone who knew us, knew Aunt Kathy commented, "You two are such amazing parents. You deserve better." Dad followed with a post of his own, less subtle. A long paragraph. "We gave everything to our children. Time, money, love. We thought we raised them right. But in the end, you can't control who turns their back on you." He tagged me, no call, no message, just a public post for everyone to see. I didn't respond. I just watched it spread. Dozens of likes, family, friends I hadn't seen in years, chiming in, one wrote. "This generation doesn't understand sacrifice." And then there was Ethan, of course. Ethan, he shared Dad's post with his own caption. "Some people only care when they're getting something." I'd give anything to protect Mom and Dad. I guess not everyone sees family that way. I read it once. Then again, the same brother who hadn't paid rent in years, who had drained every dollar they had left, who had watched the house crumble while I quietly held it together. He was painting himself as the hero, and the comments, they were worse. "You're such a good son. Your sister should be ashamed. They gave her everything. She just wanted more. They didn't know the truth. But they didn't want to know it either. They wanted a story, and my family gave them one. I might still have said nothing. Let the storm pass. But then I saw her name, Kelly, my cousin, the one who once told me, 'You're the glue in this family.'" She had liked Ethan's post, left a little heart, emoji. No words, just that. It hit harder than I expected. Maybe because I thought she saw me. Maybe because I thought she knew better. I closed my laptop, sat in the dark, and for the first time in weeks, I felt something inside me break. Not loud, not messy, just a quiet click. They weren't just rewriting the story. They were erasing me from it. They came on a Thursday. I should have expected it. The texts hadn't worked. The transfer requests had failed. The guilt trips had gone stale. So, of course, the next move was to show up. At 10:42 a.m., my office phone buzzed. The front desk receptionist's voice was calm, polite. "Ms. Hayes, your parents are here, and a man who says he's your brother. They're asking to come up. They said it's urgent." I froze in the hallway for a moment, staring at the floor. Tiles. The receptionist was still talking. "Do you want me to let them through?" I took a slow, steady breath. "Please tell them I'm not available, and that they're not expected." A pause. Then she said gently, "They said they'll wait." I nodded, though she couldn't see me. "Then let them wait." 20 minutes later, my phone buzzed again. A text from Mum. "We're downstairs." Opened the door, another one, right after. "We're not leaving until we talk to you." I didn't rush. I finished the meeting I was in, answered to more emails, then finally walked downstairs. They were standing right inside the glass entry doors of my building, too close together, like they'd practiced this scene. Dad stiffened the moment he saw me, like he was holding back a lecture. Mum clutched her purse with both hands, her eyes searching my face like she was hunting for softness. Ethan stood off to the side, shoulders slouched, looking like he'd rather be anywhere else. They all turned toward me at once. No one spoke right away. I crossed my arms. Calm, steady. Sam, Mum said, her voice already edged with tension. We need to talk. I looked at her, then past her, at the street outside. A delivery van rumbled by in the distance. I stayed silent. Dad cleared his throat. You'd really let us lose the house over this? I let the words hang there. Then I said, evenly, you really thought I wouldn't? His mouth opened like he wanted to argue, but I cut him off. You left me out. You gave everything to Ethan. And now you're here asking me for the same support I gave you for years, without question. They didn't respond. Mum stepped forward, her voice softer this time. We thought you'd understand. You've always been strong. I nodded once. You used that as an excuse to forget me. Ethan finally muttered something, his voice low. I didn't ask for any of this. I turned my head toward him. But you took it. He looked away, unable to meet my eyes. Dad's hands went to his hips, the stance he always took when he thought he was the authority in the room. We fed you, raised you. You owe us something. I almost laughed. I paid that debt every single month, every single year. And you erased me anyway. Mum's lip trembled. We didn't mean to hurt you. I stepped forward, just once. My voice low, steady. Then why did you wait for me to disappear, before realizing I was the one holding everything up? Silence. They had no answer. Ethan shifted uncomfortably, reaching toward the door like maybe he'd just go upstairs and talk it through. I held up a hand. Don't. You're not coming up. You're not coming in. I won't be your answer this time. No yelling. No scene. Just stillness. The three people who once called themselves my family stood in front of me, and I was done trying to be seen by people who only looked when they needed something. They didn't lose me when they changed. They lost me when they believed I'd never walk away. I didn't block their numbers. I didn't need to. The silence I gave them was louder than anything they could shout back. They tried. Of course, Mom's texts first. Gentle words, careful phrasing. We love you. Please don't shut us out. Then Dad's colder. You're selfish. You'll regret this. Ethan barely said anything. Just one message. Late one night. You think this makes you better. Walking away. I didn't answer. A few days later, I took a walk. No real purpose. Just movement. Without meaning to, my path curved back toward the neighborhood where I grew up. The old street looked the same. Cracked sidewalks, a half-painted fence leaning against the wind, and then the house. A big for sale sign in the front yard. The shutters faded. The grass patchy and dry. I stopped on the sidewalk, staring at it. The porch light was off. The swing I had replaced 2 summers ago was gone. So was the old wind chime that had once clinked gently in the breeze. I didn't need to step closer. I didn't need to see the inside. I already knew what had collapsed. That house had never kept me. I had kept it, and now it was someone else's problem. As I turned to leave, my phone buzzed in my pocket. Once, then again, I didn't check it. I already knew whose names would be on the screen. I let it buzz, then stop, then buzz again. Finally, I pulled it out. 2 missed calls from Dad, and then a voicemail new. I muted the phone, slipped it back into my coat pocket. No message needed. I already knew what it would say. I walked home through the cold air of a late autumn afternoon, not angry, not vindicated, just free. Because the truth was simple. I was never their backup plan. They just liked pretending I would never leave. The house sold in December. I'd found out the way I found out everything through someone else. A distant cousin posted a blurry photo of the sold sign, tagging Ethan. Her caption read, "A fresh start for a great family. Excited for what's next." I didn't comment. I didn't even save the picture, because I knew better. It wasn't a fresh start. It was the last thread snapping. A week later, Mom called. Not the pleading kind of call, not the guilt-laden ones. This one was quiet. Short. "We're moving into a rental," she said. "Small, not much space, but it'll do." I didn't ask for the address. She paused, like she wanted to fill the silence with something softer, something reaching. Instead, she just said, "I hope you're well." It was the closest she'd come to an apology, but apologies mean little when they come after the choice is made. I thought that would be the end of it. The house gone, their story rewritten. My role cut out clean, but life doesn't end neatly. It frays, it lingers, sometimes in the form of a late-night voicemail I don't listen to, sometimes in the form of a Facebook memory that resurfaces, reminding me of birthdays when I was the one baking the cake, sometimes in the form of Ethan's name flashing on my phone, unmissable like a stain. He called me once, 2 months after. "The sale, Sam," he said, his voice tight, rushed. "You don't understand what it's like. They're different now. They look at me like I failed them. They're angry all the time, and I can't fix it. I thought if you helped." I cut him off, calm, steady. "You wanted the house. You wanted the inheritance. You wanted to be the one they leaned on. This is what that looks like." He tried to protest, his words tumbling. "I didn't know it would be like this." I let the silence stretch. Then I said, "Now you do." And I hung up. He didn't call. Again, there are days I wonder if I was cruel, walking away, letting them fall. But then I remember the nights I sat on hold with creditors under their name. The weekends I scrubbed mildew from their basement while Ethan slept in. The years I carried their house, their bills, their dignity while they erased me with a signature on a will. That wasn't cruelty. That was survival. The truth is, families break in 2 ways. Sometimes with a bang, a fight, a betrayal, a wound that splits clean, and sometimes with a quiet realization that the people you thought would always see you never really did. My family broke the quiet way, and now the silence is mine to keep. I keep a single photograph on my fridge. Me at 12, standing in front of the old porch, my hair crooked in a ponytail, one shoelace untied. Mom's arm draped over my shoulder, Dad behind us, Ethan smirking at the camera. It looks happy at a glance, but when I stare at it long enough, I see the gap. The invisible space where I was already holding things together, the way my smile never quite reached my eyes. I don't hate the picture. I don't love it either. I keep it as proof, not of what I lost, but of what I carried. People ask me sometimes how I can live without family, how I can just let go. I don't tell them everything. I don't talk about the foreclosure notices, or the empty pantry shelves, or the years of being the invisible child turned invisible adult. I just say, sometimes family isn't about blood. It's about who sees you, who stays. And most people nod. They don't press dot, because deep down, most people know not every story about family is one worth saving. Last week, I planted a small lemon tree on my balcony. A silly little thing in a 2-small pot. I water it every morning, not because I expect fruit anytime soon, but because it's mine. It doesn't ask, it doesn't take, it just grows, quietly, and maybe that's enough. So this is where it ends, not with reconciliation, not with forgiveness, neatly tied like ribbon dot, but with me, standing here, breathing easier, living lighter, because they didn't lose me when they sold the house. They lost me the moment. They mistook my love for obligation, and I have finally stopped mistaking their need for proof of mine.